Welcome to the Marketing Smarts live show by MarketingProfs and the Marketing Smarts podcast, where we dive into B2B news, resources, valuable guest content, and much, much more each and every week. If you're a B2B marketer looking for a place to learn, keep up to date, and have some fun along the way, I'm your guy. Grab a beverage and a notepad and welcome to the show. Hello to all my Marketing Smarts live viewers today. I'm super excited to bring you episode 9 of the Marketing Smarts live show on a topic that B2B marketers have to get right, have to leverage for growth, and might I say is the foundation of what we do as digital B2B marketers today in this space. But are we doing it right? Or better question, are we doing it the best that we can? Hey, I'm your boy, George B. Thomas, speaker, trainer, catalyst, and host of this here show, the Marketing Smarts YouTube and LinkedIn live show, as well as the Marketing Smarts podcast found on your favorite podcast app. Hello to you that are with me. I see you in the chat pane. Thank you. Today's topic is how to generate high quality traffic that turns into leads and sales. And of course, whatever tips, tricks, strategies, or best practices that hit my brain along our fantastic journey. You know how I work. I just will start coming up with stuff and spitting it out. Now, our guest clips today are brought to you by none other than Brian Dean. That's right. Brian Dean is going to be our guest clips. And Brian Dean's work has been featured in Inc., Fast Company, Entrepreneur, U.S. News, World Report, Success Magazine, Vox, Forbes. I could keep on going. The Next Web, HuffPost, everywhere. He's the founder of Backlinko, which, by the way, was acquired by SEMrush, and the co-founder of now Exploding Topics. Remember, these clips of Brian today are pulled from the full Marketing Smarts podcast episode. And if you want to listen to the full interview with Brian and myself, make sure to tune in to the Marketing Smarts podcast. Link to the full show will be in the description below after this live show ends. That's right. All the links in all the right places at all the right times. Also, thanks to Superside for sponsoring the original podcast episode. Make sure you click and watch that bad boy. There is some great information. These are just a few nuggets that I've pulled into today's show. So, question, as marketers, we have a lot of metrics we have to pay attention to when we create content. Those metrics become even more robust the more content we create, the more actions, tactics, strategies that we try to do. And however, is there one metric that many of us marketers are forgetting about or not thinking about? And is it getting lost in the force of other information that we need to pay attention to? I have to ask, how much do you pay attention to the sale as a marketer? That's right. The end of the story, some might say. How much are you paying attention to the sale as you're working on the content, as you're doing the tactics and strategies of a B2B marketer? Heck, should we even be thinking about it? I think we should, but I wanted to get Brian's thoughts on, should marketers think about the sale when creating the content and implementing this information, these strategies and tactics that we use on a daily basis. So what did Brian have to say? Well, let's take a look.
I would say most marketers probably don't focus enough on the sale. And the reason for that is just, as marketers, there's so many other numbers to keep in mind. So many metrics. You have impressions, likes, followers, leads, email subscribers, open rate, click-through rate. Like, there's a million metrics to keep in mind and to try to juggle. And it can be difficult to understand how that actually connects to sales. But on the other hand, if you don't pay attention to sales and you only pay attention to these sort of vanity metrics, then it's going to be difficult to actually get any business results from all the marketing that you're doing. But on the other hand, if you just focus on sales, you're going to miss out on a lot of sales, ironically, because a lot of this marketing is brand awareness, bringing people to your site, getting people into your sales cycle. Maybe they convert 6 months down the road, but they're not going to show up on any analytics. They're not going to show up in your Google Analytics and say, oh, they visited this page, sign up as a lead, and convert into a sale. Some will, but many won't. In fact, if you look at numbers in B2B especially, it can take 6 to 12 months for someone to actually convert. And by that time, cookies have expired. Analytics just don't track that kind of stuff. They're on their phone, then they're on their browser, then they're at work. It's very difficult to track that stuff. So I would say, yes, you should have sales I wouldn't say at the front of your mind, but definitely in the back of your mind as you do your marketing.
So did you hear what I heard? As you do your marketing, the sale and the sales process should be in the back of your mind. As marketers, we need to be able to pay attention to the upstream and downstream effects of what we're doing, even when it's pertaining to our content creation or when content creation comes into play with generating quality traffic and quality leads. Now, we'll get back to Brian and his thoughts on B2B marketing, content, quality leads, and more. But I have to ask, are you part of the Marketing Profs community? If not, become part of the Marketing Profs community for free, by the way, by heading over to mprofs.com/MP today. That's mprofs.com/MP today. Now, it's time for In the B2B News, where we talk about breaking B2B news or really important tips we find on Google News tab related to you and your B2B business. Today's In the News section, it's a shocker, the ultimate guide to TikTok for B2B marketers. Now, stick with me for a second. That's right. This might be a major sign that things they are a-changing, because I did search B2B marketing in Google News and this article came up. Now, if you've not had the chance to check out the episode where I talked with Wave Wild about TikTok, make sure you do that after the show and then check out this ultimate guide. In this guide, you'll read about things like why use TikTok for B2B marketing. It's still blowing my mind, even just saying this right now. The fact that this is what I found for research. Why use TikTok for B2B marketing? Tips for winning at B2B TikTok marketing. Content or connect with your B2B audience on TikTok, and TikTok frequently asked questions. This guide is 2,684 words that might just make you go, things that make you go, Anyway, I won't go there, although I just kind of just went there. But it'll make you go, on your next B2B marketing content or campaign strategy. Or to be completely honest with you, maybe not. I don't know. Totally up to you, but that's the guide. So let's get back to Brian and his Marketing Smarts podcast episode. I wanted to dive into Brian's brain and ask him about creating content that generates quality traffic that then leads into quality leads. Like, how do we create that type of content and how do we get it found at the same time? What do we need to be doing? What should we be thinking about? There's about a bazillion and one questions that we could be asking, but pertaining to that question of creating this content that generates the right quality traffic and quality leads, this is what Brian had to say.
I think some people put the cart before the horse when it comes to creating this sort of content designed for leads. A lot of people will create thought leadership content or white papers. Not to say these are formats that are bad. The problem is that, yes, if your prospect reads this thought leadership content and it's really good, they're more likely to become a customer, because they're going to see you as an expert, or more likely to take the action that you want them to take, like actually sign up for a lead or fill in more information if they're already in your CRM. The challenge is if you create it and no one sees it, it doesn't really do any good. So I think that the emphasis should be on figuring out where these people hang out online, and specifically what they search for online, and how you can get in front of them with any content, whether it's a podcast like this, a YouTube video, an infographic, a blog post, a white paper, an ebook. The important thing is to understand where these people are online so you can get in front of them. It's kind of like that old advertising adage. Like, it doesn't matter how good your ad is. If you're selling dog treats to people that don't have dogs, it's not going to convert. So you got the best dog treat ad ever. But if you try to get it in front of people that don't own a dog, it's not going to convert. It's the same idea here. You can create the best content in your niche that's ever existed, but if it doesn't get in front of people who are your ideal customers, it's not going to do anything for you. So for me, the first step is finding these things that they search for online, even if it's not just searching for your product or service, just what do they tend to search for online, and using content as a way to get in front of them.
So are you currently selling dog food to cat owners or people who have aquariums and no dogs? Anyway, that was some great information, but it immediately shot my brain in the direction to a secondary question. What the heck is the best type of content to create to generate this quality traffic that generates quality leads? Should we be focused on videos because those have been hot? Like everybody's talking about do video, do video. Should we be creating podcasts because, you know, you want to have people be able to take you with them and put them in your ear? And anyway, it just led me to a lot of questions of what is the best direction to go when you're creating this content for traffic and lead generation. And it's interesting, somewhat surprising, but maybe not, what Brian had to say about that. You want to hear it? Let's hear it.
The blog post. Nothing beats the old blog post in my experience. The blog post is this, it seems so simple and kind of antiquated at this point when we have TikTok and podcasts and stuff. But the reason the blog post tends to be the best format for most companies is because it just has a certain durability to it that can last for years. You can create a piece of content that will get people reading it for years, and you can always update it. Plus, it's really easy to turn that reader into a lead, or at least a subscriber that you can turn into a lead and then a sale down the road, because you can have all the call to actions on that page and you own the platform, as opposed to a YouTube video, which has the power of being video where it's dynamic and people are watching you and it's a powerful medium. But to get someone to leave YouTube to go to your site, it's tricky. Or a podcast, great format for teaching and for people on the go. But right now, if someone's, at the supermarket, the checkout line, and we're like, okay, now you need to do this, it's difficult sometimes for them to do that. So the reason I like the blog post is just because it's a format that once you publish it and keep it updated, it can bring in traffic for years. And also it tends to convert a little bit higher in my experience than some other content formats.
So did you like the pause, the setup there? I love that it just came in with the blog post. And it got my brain thinking, while some things are changing, i.e. TikTok was our actual marketing smarts section, some things stay the same. But you have to take a look at your blog articles. Or have you taken a blog articles lately? Have you taken a look at your blog articles lately? Are they optimized? Are you updating them? Are you making sure they're the best resource for what you do? Because if it is the blog, then are we spending the time and coming back and spending more time for that valuable resource? Or is there a way you can use your blog content in a happy mix with your videos or podcast content? If you're not doing so right now, maybe the answer is yes. The answer is yes, but only if you start asking yourself and your team this question. Is it possible? Is it possible that we could make the content better? Is it possible that we could mix the content together? Is it possible that we could create some collaborative content to plug into? By the way, speaking of collaborative content, if you haven't listened to the episode with Andy Crestadina on collaborative content, you should do that. Now, again, we'll get back to Brian in a few minutes where we dive into the question, where does pillar page or skyscraper style content fit into the generate quality traffic and leads conversation? But first, it's time for some dope B2B learnings from the vault of MarketingProfs articles. That's right. It's time to dig into the treasure trove of valuable information and pull out 2 pieces of gold to help you be a better B2B marketer. Now, since we're talking about SEO and traffic and leads and all that good stuff, of course, that's where my brain went. So article 1 this week is 5 ways to get keyword ideas for your website, a beginner's guide by Daniel Brunel. And hopefully, Daniel, I said your last name correctly. In this article, you'll start to take a journey into brainstorming, keyword tools, Google, and much, much more when it comes to keyword ideas for your website. Bonus tip, you may not be paying attention to tip number 5. I'm just saying. Just saying. Article number 2 for this week's episode is 3 SEO trends marketers need to know in 2022 by Tom Capper. I love how this article starts off. SEO is a vital marketing channel for modern businesses. For other marketing efforts to reap dividends, users need to be able to find you. Yes. Didn't Brian Dean just talk about, like, hey, if you're selling dog food or if you have the best resource and nobody can find it and all those good things? Anyway, users need to be able to find you or at least see you in their list of options. Good SEO practices give that visibility by making website rank high on search engine results pages. Like Brian said in one of the clips, you can have the best content around, but if no one can find it, well, marketing is kind of dead in the water. Now, to learn more after the broadcast and to read both articles in full, head to the links located in the description below. That's right, people. All the right links in all the right places at just the right time, which is not now, because I don't want you to click away and actually go start reading things when you should be paying attention to the rest of this Marketing Smarts YouTube live show. Now, back to Brian. We've covered a ton of ground pertaining to SEO and creating content that generates quality traffic that then leads into quality leads. One thing I love, and to be honest, I'm pretty bullish on, is great pillar page content. Personally, bullish on pillar page content. Just love the concept. Got a lot of thoughts around it. So since I was sitting with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Dean, I had to ask him what part, since he brought up blog articles, does pillar page or skyscraper style content play in our conversation? Not only that, though, how can we make pillar page content that knocks it out the park? And around skyscraper content, is what he calls it, pillar page content, which is what I call it. Doesn't matter what you call it. This is what Brian had to say. And by the way, if there was a rewind in live video, this might be the rewind point. I'm just going to throw that out. We always have rewind points in the actual podcast. This right here, something to think about.
The thing to keep in mind when you're creating skyscraper content, pillar content, like you said, there's a million names for it. It's all more or less the same thing, which is creating a piece of cornerstone content on your site that is by far above and beyond the best out there. The reason that has a special name is because it's kind of impossible to do that for everything you publish. So you sort of want to pick your battles with these. And usually when you're just starting out or you don't have a lot of traction with SEO yet, I would recommend picking a lower competition keyword, a low competition topic that's maybe newer, a little bit trendy, that hasn't been saturated yet, and creating the best in class in that. Maybe it doesn't have 1 million people searching for it per month, but it can get you going. And if it's really that much better than everything else out there, then it does have a good chance to rank in Google eventually. So the key with the skyscraper content or pillar pages is really to look at the current landscape of what people have already written on that topic. Could be podcast, record on YouTube, whatever, but it's mostly related to blog content. Getting a feel for the landscape of what's already ranking, what's already done well, and how can I create something that's significantly better than what's out there. And there's a couple ways to do it. You can create more up-to-date content. So say you look at the landscape of content and it's all out of date. You're looking at how to do something and all the content is, from 2018 or 2019. Then you can go back and create something, that's similar, but more up-to-date screenshots, up-to-date steps. Maybe it refers to a tool that no longer exists. You can create something there. You can create something that's visually better. Content isn't just written, even in a blog post. It can have graphics and infographics, charts, visuals, just to spice it up a little bit and to make the content easier to digest for someone that's reading it. It can be written by an expert. So you'd be surprised how much content on the web is written by people that don't have firsthand experience with that topic. And you can go and create something that is written by an expert. Maybe you're the expert. You can hire an expert. Maybe you work with an expert or know an expert. They can be the person that writes this content or at least contributes to the content in a way that adds that level of expertise that's not out there. And there's a million other things. You could look at something and say, this content's good, but it could use this. And that's where the skyscraper comes in. And that's where you can add what's missing.
Did you happen to catch the plethora of ways that you can make your pillar page content better than your competition? Do you see a way to use pillar pages, blog articles, and other rich media types to generate quality traffic and leads? I hope you're starting to connect the dots. Remember, these clips are only a small portion of the conversation I had with Brian around this topic. Make sure to check out the full interview on your favorite podcast app. Now, we're going to get back to some words of wisdom from Brian here in a few minutes, but right now it's time to turn the spotlight on you, the Marketing Profs community. Yep, it's time for the hashtag MP-B2B community, where we searched far and wide in the hashtag MP-B2B universe to find amazing information and conversations to bring to the masses. That's you guys, by the way. So first, make sure you're using the stinking hashtag so I can find you. And second, make sure you have fun and add value to the community. Then we'll spotlight you and your crew on the show. Now, this week, it's Twitter and Jay Acunzo. His spotlight post is pretty simple, but it's pretty sweet. Hill I am preparing to climb in my speeches this fall, coming to at MarketingProfs, hashtag MP B2B in October. The speech title that if you're going to be at the B2B forum that you're going to get a chance is The Urge to Act, How Masterful Marketers Mold Their Stories to Resonate Deeper. See you there, maybe. That's how the tweet ends. And speaking of that, will we see you there? Are you planning to attend the B2B forum in October? 4 keynotes, 49 speakers, a ton of shenanigans. And if you use the coupon code MyPalGeorge, that's right, MyPalGeorge, you can get $300 off your B2B forum ticket for this October. But I digress. Didn't mean to go into a little bit of a sales pitch, but I hope I do see you there. Will you be the next spotlight like Jay was this week? Remember, community, use the hashtag MPB2B on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and get the light shined on your awesomeness in the next episode or a future episode of the Marketing Smarts live show. Pro tip, it won't hurt if you tag me in the post as well, at George B. Thomas on LinkedIn and Twitter. So one of my favorite portions of the original podcast episodes and of this is bringing people wisdom. So let's kick it back to Brian and some words of wisdom around this topic of how to generate high quality traffic that turns into leads and sales. And it is a doozy. Here is what Brian left us with as far as words of wisdom.
The number one thing, I would say the most important thing, is to understand what your customers are looking for online when they're not looking for what you sell. Because in your space, you're going to know all of the ways that people search for your product or service. It's usually pretty straightforward. If you sell business coaching, people are generally searching for business coaching and variations around that. And using some of the tools and tactics that I went over in this podcast, you can find some maybe hidden gems in there. But for the most part, they're going to be saturated. The real gold when it comes to creating content that drives quality traffic is figuring out terms that people search for when they're not searching for what you sell. It's your perfect customer in every way. But usually in the course of their life, they're going to search for millions and millions of things. They're going to search for your product like 1 or 2 times. And it's kind of high pressure to be able to think that you have to be in front of them those 1 or 2 times to have a chance to convert, versus all those other times you have a chance to get in front of them. They can sign up for your newsletter. Then maybe they can become a lead. But the key is understanding it. So to give you a real life example, for my startup Exploding Topics, people are searching for like trend software and trend analysis. Those are straightforward. What's not so straightforward is that because our target customers are VCs, they're also searching for startups, electric vehicle startups, SaaS startups, B2B startups. So we created all these lists of startups to get in front of them. Even though at that time they're not searching for trends whatsoever, we're still getting in front of the right type of person, get them on the email list, and then down the road, because we're sending them valuable content via email, they're likely to convert down the road. And we get 100 times more leads and traffic from those than we do from the content that's specifically targeting those keywords where people are searching for exactly what we do.
What your customers are looking for when they're not looking to purchase from you. Come on. I mean, figuring out the terms they search for when they are not ready to spend money with you and use those terms to get in front of them, to be a friend, to add value, to become, might I dare say, trusted. Great words of wisdom. Hey, have you enjoyed today's journey? Let us know. Use that hashtag MPB2B. Head to the description below, click on the link to the full Marketing Smarts podcast with Brian Dean, and keep on learning more about generating quality traffic and leads. Remember, these were just a few clips of the original Marketing Smarts interview that, by the way, was sponsored by Superside. If you got value out of today's show, hit that like, and better yet, share it with a friend. To keep learning more, hit that subscribe or watch additional Marketing Prof videos, or go tune in to the original Marketing Smarts podcast episode on your favorite podcast app. Now, don't forget to become part of the Marketing Profs community by heading over to mprofs.com/MP today. And as always, remember to be a happy, helpful, humble B2B marketing human, and we'll see you in the next Marketing Smarts live show next week. Enjoy and be good to yourself.